The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What's up, everybody? Episode 131, Sports Card Nation. Let's get the tough stuff out of the way. I have to talk about it. I do apologize if you know already and you heard this already from maybe Hobby Quick Hits, but for those that may not listen to that show or follow me on social media, life's a roller coaster sometimes. I think we all can agree with that, And Friday started out on a high last Friday, the 4th. Show release, episode 130 with DJ Ski and Eric Norton. It was a fun show and got released in the morning. Got out of the box pretty quick as far as downloads go. In a good frame of mind. Went online before I had to go to work. Got up a little early. Feeling pretty good. Went online and went on Expedia, which is the site I use. They're not a sponsor, but it's the site I use to make travel arrangements when I travel. And so went on there and decided, I'm going to try to go. I already have the time off. I know I said I was on the fence about the National, but, once it looked very good that was going to happen, I said, going to go. Have the whole week off. The first time I went, I only went for 4 days. Let's do it. Got the time blocked off. And so I went on Expedia, feeling, kind of, riding that hobby high, if you will. And, kind of did a combo. I always, if I'm traveling, do a combo package, airfare and hotel. Kind of knew a few hotels that were close enough to the Donald Stevens Center. I wanted to be close enough, and so I had it narrowed down. And I got a combo package, and I booked my flight and my hotel, and so now I'm feeling really good, in a good mood. Got ready, went to work. About 30 minutes into reporting to work, I got a phone call from my dad, who notified me that my stepbrother, Steve, age 51, had passed away. Hit me like a ton of bricks. I knew he was not in great health, but no one expected yet for this to occur. And, went from that mountain high to, that valley low in the second. That's all it took. And, hit me very emotionally. Some coworkers who happened to be near me when I took that call knew immediately something was wrong. I told my dad, I'll call you back here a little bit. I didn't I didn't do that right away, but after talking a little bit, when I got off that call, my coworkers are, like, what happened? I told them, they're like, you should go home. I'm like, no, that's not, I can dwell on it, or I can, try to do my best job today here and take my mind off it a little bit. And so, was on the phone at different points during the day with family members all through the day. I let my coworkers, and staff know that it was going to be that kind of day. I might have to step out of the office to take these calls. But I wasn't leaving early. I was going to make it through the day, which I did. And it's tough. It's a tough day when you lose someone you're close to, when you're really not expecting it, and really like a punch to the belly, right? Knocks the wind right out of you. And wouldn't wish that feeling on my worst enemy, and I try not to have too many of those, at least that I know about. And so it's tough, but you gotta keep going. But one thing, the tagline of the show is the hobby is the people. And when I came up with that tagline a while ago, in the early stages of the show, I thought about it. Even though it was sort of easy to come up with, I wanted something that made sense and rang true. And that just came to me. It just sort of, I didn't even have to think too hard. Just popped in my head. Maybe it's the 30 plus years I've been in the hobby and all the people. I can tell you their first and last names and who they are and what they meant to me in my hobby journey. From Rudy Backstein, who gave me my start working in the store as a 13, 14-year-old, to other people that I've set up with shows with, and even onto my, customers that came into my store years. I could tell you their names and who they collected and all that good stuff. And then even now into my content creation side, the people I've met and befriended. And it's a journey, hopefully has a long ways to go. But what Friday showed me is you don't know. You don't know when your journey's necessarily going to end. And you have to be thankful for every minute and every part of it. And, I came back to that tagline, the hobby's the people. And I want to thank a bunch of people, some as a group, some as individuals. First off, everyone that reached out. I got text messages, a couple phone calls, messages on social media itself, whether that be Twitter or Facebook or DMs and PMs, and I mean a lot of them. I tried to acknowledge and answer every single one of those because you took your time out of your day to reach out to me during a real low point, and it means a lot. It really does. And if I didn't respond back to you, please, it's a complete accident. I think I got everybody, but if I did miss somebody, I didn't mean that. Okay, and there's a lot of people. I mean, when it comes to thanking everyone for that, that would be the whole show. I'm already 9 minutes into or 7 minutes into the intro here, and I didn't want to go that long, but it's too bad. I'm just going to be sort of like Jim Valvano and say, I'm going to keep going here, but. I want to thank a few individual people. Brad Bethune, Texas Card Dude, someone I've become very good friends with for different reasons, and great dude, and sent a gift box of chocolates to us here, my family, with a beautiful message in there, and thank you, Brad. Herman, 3B Collection, sent the card, and I want to, hats off to him. And then, those are two people I obviously have a relationship and know and can call friends, but someone else reached out to me. This epitomizes the beauty and the great side of the hobby we're in, and I gotta share this. And I didn't solicitate any of this stuff. People did this out of the kindness of their heart, and it's a very humbling experience. But gentleman named Chris Ferreras is the proprietor of Papillon Trading Company. He does breaks. He's not a sponsor. Didn't even really know, quite frankly, who I was. He just private messaged me and said, "Hey man, a couple people let me know that someone that they admire in the hobby and that does good things for other people's at a low moment. And I heard about it. I heard about you, and I want to do something for you." And, of course I said, well, I appreciate that. It's not necessary. And he said, no, I want to do it. I want to break a box of, Diamond Kings baseball for you. And he didn't have to do that. Doesn't know me. Could have just sent a simple, hey, sorry to hear about, that terrible news. I'm praying for you. And that would have been more than enough. And didn't do that. He insisted, let's do this. And, I've been, early part of the week kind of extra busy with phone calls and getting itinerary set. I'm going to be headed to Brooklyn, New York, my hometown, back there. Unfortunately, not for good reasons, but to celebrate my brother's life. We're gonna, with family and reminisce, and there's gonna be some tears, obviously. It's gonna be a tough day. It's gonna be a tough weekend, but we got to do it. We got to keep going. I know he'd say the same thing if he was here, and. But going back to the story, I don't want to get off to, Chris from Papillon said, hey, let's coordinate. I know you got things going on whenever you're ready. And I kind of told him, I think Tuesday I might be able to do it Tuesday night. And we linked up. He broke that box of Diamond Kings in his YouTube live stream. I was in the room, had a nice chat even off screen, if you will. And, funny that, everyone that knows me or follows me knows there's some Jackie Robinsons that were in that box, and there was a Pee Wee Reese, and I'm a Mets guy, and there was a Conforto, and if you really follow the show, I bought a bunch of Tristan McKenzie stuff because I really like Tristan McKenzie, and there was, I believe, a quad patch auto McKenzie as well. Sort of apropos, kind of weird. Almost like serendipity there. But Chris did not have to do that, yet he did. And that's the beauty of the hobby. Those folks, us, all of us, that will do that for our fellow hobbyists and fellow man or woman. You don't have to be in a hobby. Good deeds can extend past the hobby. And while, obviously, I wished the news that came down Friday never happened. It showed me the wonderful lights that are in this hobby and why I do this every week, whether it's a huge download week or maybe an average or below it, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's not what it's really about. It's about the people. The hobby is the people. It really, really, truly is. I'm so glad that's the tagline of this show. I'm not trying to be cocky or conceited about it, but it's really the best tagline I think any podcast can honestly have, and I'm glad I got it and trademark it. And so the hobby's the people, and this, from when that news came down Friday to the time I'm recording this out there to you, I'm 110% positive that it is. And there's some beautiful and great people. And if you are a beautiful and great hobby person, whoever you are, keep being that person to multiple people. That stuff goes such a long way. This I didn't need necessarily this to happen to realize it. I knew this before then, but this just strengthened my belief in that for sure. And it's gonna, I do stuff for other people, truth be told, and it's just gonna make me want to do that all that much more. It's important. And keep being the light in the hobby for you, for others. Keep being a light in life for yourself and others. It's that important. So I'm 13 minutes into the intro. This is the longest intro I've done. I apologize for that, but I'm speaking from the heart, and I wanted to. I need to, and I hope I don't have to do this too often when stuff like this happens for myself or anyone else. I wish everyone the best, and nothing ever like that happens, but that's not how life goes, as we all know. So, all right, on to this, what's going on with this show. Got a great show. I know I say that all the time. Leighton Sheldon is my guest today from Just Collect and Vintage Breaks, and New Jersey guy, and great guy, and a great, again, advocate and ambassador from the hobby. And he's taken breaking, sort of kind of what everyone sort of was doing, and put his own little spin on it with an older and vintage touch, hence the name Vintage Breaks. And we talk about a light in the hobby and doing good deeds. I had no idea during the interview that he was going to do this, honest to God. And you're going to hear it if you listen to the interview. Leighton's going to give one of you folks out there on social media and listening to the show, a chance to win $100 break credit to Vintage Breaks, no strings attached. And so I've asked people to come in and do the guest spot as far as announcing the new product releases for the week. And Yannick Letourneau did it last week, and Young Max Gotcha is going to do it this week. And both these guys have nailed it, really put me to shame, truth be told, and doing a great job. And I'm really, I was really wondering, if this was a good idea, and I think it's been a great idea. A lot of fun to have other voices on the show, people get involved with the show. The hobby is the people, that's what it's about. So today we got Max Gotcha from Sports Card Shop at Moco, one of our sponsors. And next week his brother Owen is going to take the mic and do next week's release schedule. And so if it's something you're interested in doing, I got a few more on the list. So I'm going in kind of order of volunteering. But if you want to hear yourself on the podcast doing that spot, please reach out to me and let me know. It's been a lot of fun, and probably more fun for me than the people doing it, but it's been great. And so if you want to do it, just let me know. I'll put it on the list, and we're going in volunteer order, as they say. This show is going to be dedicated to my brother, Steve Novak, and I'm glad to be a small part of this hobby, and thank you out there in the hobby that allow me to be. I say that with sincerity and from the bottom of my heart. So let's turn this upbeat and get this show started. Thank you, Max. Take it away.
Hello, it is Max from the Sports Card Shop at Moco, and I am been politely asked by John to do the releases for this week. I am so grateful he selected me for this. Thank you, John. And I just wanted to let you guys know we are located in New Buffalo, Michigan, and we'd love to see some of you guys come out and come to the shop and see all the stuff we have. Let's get started. So, on the 8th, we had 2020 Decision Series 2 trading cards. On the 9th, we had 2021 Historic Autographs, Written Word POTUS, the first 36. And on the 9th, we had 2021 Upper Deck Game Used Golf. I wonder if Tiger Woods is in there. I bet he probably is. On the 11th, we had 2021 Panini Prism Draft Picks H2 Collegiate Football. Some more cool products for football there. Starting to get kicking off the new year here. I'm excited for that. Topps Baseball Series 2 Hobby and Jumbo. That was on the 11th. I'm excited to see some of the newer rookies in there. Hopefully they put some more Mercedes cards in there. We were kind of lacking those in the Series 1. On the 11th, we had 2021 Leaf Ultimate Draft Football. Justin Fields and more Trevor Lawrence. That's going to be a cool product. On the 11th, we also had Panini Prism Draft Collegiate Football Hobby. Not the H2, it's the Hobby this time. On the 11th, we had Topps UEFA Champions League Chrome Soccer. Some more soccer products coming out. That's starting to take over the market a little bit. It's coming on the rise here. And on the 16th, we had WWE Chrome for 2021. Another 16th release, we had 2021 Topps Museum Baseball. Also on the 16th again, we had 2021 Game of Thrones Iron Anniversary Series 1. Another release on the 16th. 2020-21 Panini Impeccable Basketball. That's going to be a cool product. Very high quality. Another 16th release, 2021-21 Panini Chronicles Soccer H2. Some more soccer out here. And on the 18th, we had some Top Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 2. I love that show. I haven't really watched it, but I've heard some great things about it. So I bet that's going to be a good product. And thank you once again, John, for letting me come on your podcast and do these announcements. And enjoy the podcast, guys. See ya.
The Sports Card Shop at MoCo is your small-town local shop with a global reach. Conveniently located in New Buffalo, Michigan. We're an easy drive for most residents in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. Come see us every Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 5 and Sundays from 12 to 5. Want to shop from the comfort of your home? Give us a call at 269-469-0140 or visit our website at thesportscardshop@moco.com or our Facebook page. Major credit cards and PayPal accepted, and we ship anywhere in the world. We're an authorized dealer for both Panini and Topps, with new sealed wax from both arriving weekly. And yes, we have PSA and SGC graded cards and over 250,000 singles in stock. Be sure to follow us and turn on notifications for posts to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you don't miss out on new arrivals. The Gocher family has been serving this community for over a decade, so stop by or visit us at thesportscardshop@moco.com.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, as we know by now, the National is a go, and I'll be going as well, as you heard in the intro there. Long autograph guest list. Many will be free with the VIP package, not all, obviously. I'm going to do a show. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Hobby Quick Hits or or Sports Card Nation, but I am going to do a show pertaining to the National, and I'll go over all those individual guests. The list is very long. Don't want to do it during this segment. We have another record breaker via auction, Leland's Auctions, a BGS 9 Brady autographed contenders rookie to 100, $3.1 million. That's right, $3.1 million, breaking the previous record of 2.5. Speaking of shows, such as the National, shows are really starting to pick up across most of the country, including here. I guess we're having a local hotel one here next month. Very small, so nothing on the scale that we usually talk about on this show. This weekend, Philly, Valley Forge, a lot of big-time dealers will be there, right in the Valley Forge casino there. So cards are gambling. Why not have it near a casino? Speaking of card shows, as you heard Eric on this very program last week announced that there would be a 2-day card show just before the Industry Summit kicks off in Vegas. If you want to set up, go to the Industry Summit's website for more details about being a dealer at the Industry Summit Card Show at the Westgate Hotel. Pro Set Sports, not Pro Set Football, but 2021 Pro Set Sports by Leaf will be coming out soon. And it's going to have multi-sports, 2 cards per box. Both will be sticker auto. So every card will be auto. Most of them will be based on the 1989 football design. Some of the big names to look for in the release will be Griffey, Montana, Steph Curry, Peyton Manning, Shaq, Pele, Messi, Marino, Tyson, Pujols, and many others. There are 10 boxes per case, so 20 cards per case. There will be dual autos and triple autos. And I saw the spec sheet on it. It does look cool. I don't have a price SRP on it at this point. There might be one on there, but I don't have that information at this time for release. So, Pro Set with Brian Gray and Leaf purchasing the licensing, the name. There's their real first non-print-to order, if you will, product with the Pro Set Sports. And, I got to be honest with you, in seeing, like I said, the spec sheet and the pictures, it does look sharp. It'd be something I'm not opposed to opening or buying, depending, again, on that price tag. So we'll see what that brings. And good to see shows coming back around again and kicking off, and including here in New York with a very, very small one. But look for shows starting to pop up in your neck of the woods, as Al Roker would say. So there you go.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
Sports Card Nation! It's now time to chop it up with our featured guest on the one-of-one card shop guest line. Let's go!
All right, happy to be joined by my next guest. He's the proprietor of Vintage Breaks and Just Collect. I've been trying to get him on the show a little bit. He's a very busy man, but happy to have him on tonight. Without further ado, Leighton Sheldon, welcome to Sports Card Nation podcast.
Thanks for having me on, John. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Hey, I know you've been in the hobby, the industry for a long time. You much like I, you've seen a lot of different changes. Kind of, I know you've probably been asked this 500,000 times. There's 500,000 in one. Kind of how how the hobby journey sort of started for you. How did you get into cards?
Oh, sure. Much like many other folks, John, that grew up aspiring to be a professional baseball player or another professional sports player. I was no different, and I really wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted to play in the Yankees, certainly alongside Jeter. Obviously, this is not what I thought, but certainly a close second place. And so, as a young, if you will, lad, John, after playing baseball, I learned about baseball cards. And so for me, it was really, I don't want to date myself, but it was prior to the internet, right? So the way that I got my stats was either stealing my dad's newspapers, the sports page, or it was really enjoyable for someone like myself who was kind of soaking up the game and the stats to read the backs of baseball cards. So kind of one thing led to another. And, fast forward to my teen years, I understood that they had dollar, value, and, really grew to like them even more, but then was able to kind of turn it into, I wouldn't say a business in the sense of what it is today, but was able to kind of buy and sell and took some of those extra profits and, was able to, let's say, buy more cards and, have the ability to maybe advertise a little bit. I remember being 17 years old, John, and I think I was a junior or senior in high school, and my dad lent me the family minivan. We had an extra minivan, basically, with a lot of miles on it. And, that summer, I remember placing kind of ads in a variety of newspapers and driving up and down the New Jersey coastline. And I made a lot of mistakes, John, but I'll never forget it. I'll also never forget at the end of that summer, my dad said, "How many effing miles did you drive this summer?" I said, "Well, Dad, you told me I could have the car." He said, "Yeah, I didn't tell you could drive to Alaska." And I said, "I never drove to Alaska. I drove to Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and I think I had one collection I looked at in Vermont." And he's like sitting there scratching his head, John, like, what, where did I go wrong? So anyway, to bring it back to center, John, I've been a baseball card fan really ever since I can remember, meaning, 7 or 8 years old. And then it's just never really stopped. And I graduated Rutgers College in 2000, with a degree in management. And, instead of kind of pursuing that corporate finance or what have you career, I decided to take a shot doing something I was really passionate about. And since the Yankees wouldn't have me, the baseball card world had a much lower barrier to entry.
Yep, and doing some research, I already knew this about you too. You've worked with Mark Murphy, the baseball card kid, Leland's, kind of cut your teeth there. Kind of talk about how that sort of, helped you get to sort of where you are now with your own, with your own company.
Sure. Well, Mark Murphy was instrumental in my start because when I graduated Rutgers College, Sean, the job market was really hot. And the one thing I had going for me, i.e. that I didn't have to take a job I didn't like, is that, I paid my way through school, buying and selling cards and also working at Johnson & Johnson as a financial analyst. And so when I graduated college in 2000, I had already bought and sold cards, with Mark Murphy, through Mark Murphy, when I was, like 15 or 16 years old. And so I had seen his business grow, thought someone like myself, could be of added value to him. He was still a small operation in the sense of not that many people worked for him, but he was doing real dollars in the sense of, several $1 million of retail, and wholesale on open sales, at the time. And there was no Steve Hart, so that was a big deal. And it allowed me, candidly, John, to pass on the job from Deloitte & Touche doing business consulting, which I'm sure sounds really fancy and wonderful. But, I was really able to pursue baseball cards, initially because of Mark. And I worked there for about 2 years full time, helping him grow his business, but then also, kind of dealing singles on the side, because that really wasn't, part of his wheelhouse. And then a couple of years into there, I had heard Leland's was looking for a quote unquote a cart guy. And so I had heard about it through a good friend of mine, Rich Albersheim, and may he rest in peace. I met with Josh Evans and Mike Hefner. Oh, I don't know at this point, probably about 17 or 18 years ago, and I worked there for about 4 years. And when I left there, I was a director of acquisitions. But more than like a fancy title, John, I traveled with Josh for a couple of years. Kind of learning the ins and outs of the auction business, of not just sports, but Americana and paper and, just old time collectors, kind of like what made them tick. I got to see for myself meeting folks. And so, you were mentioning the term cutting teeth earlier. Yeah, I owe a lot of the path that I was able to walk on, kind of, if you will, on someone else's dime, meaning them paying me for something I truly loved, to Mark Murphy and to Josh and the Hef from Leland's. Because I was, as I mentioned, John, I was able to do this full time, and I really loved it. So yes, it was work, but it was also something that I truly enjoyed. And so, and still to this day. And so when I left Leland's after working there for 4 years, I started Just Collect, and I really did so with the mindset of, and obviously business changes. You have to, John, that. We started off really as a kind of like pre-Probstein, pre-PWCC days. Within the first 24 months, we were doing several $1 million in consignment auction sales. And the reason or the rationale for that idea, John, is after being at Leland's and seeing that long tail, their cutoff was kind of like that $1,000 mark. And there was a lot of things that were, they didn't have a home. They weren't being sold in auctions really at that time. And obviously there wasn't dozens of auction houses like there are today. And so, that was kind of my first foray into business for Just Collect. We bought and sold, let's say, like 20% of our revenue, and then consignments was 80%. And then after several years, we kind of had a flip flop, just because the way the market was moving, John, with Probstein and PWCC kind of ascending to the forefront of the eBay consignment business. They had basically been lowering the fees when I thought we should have been kind of charging more. So I said, hey, John, I got to get out of here before, we kind of keep cutting to the bottom. And, I really enjoyed buying and selling anyway. So, kind of fast forward, we can talk about Vintage Breaks maybe in a few minutes, take a breath here and, see if I answered your questions the way that, you were hoping that, I would attack them. But, I just did the best I could to kind of be succinct and tell you about the beginning of my journey in the card world.
Yeah, no, and I mean the two, the two companies you mentioned, not a bad way to kind of learn the ropes. And like you said, you weren't brand new. You had already done stuff in high school. I did my first show at 15, so you weren't green, but working for those two establishments probably didn't set you back, and it probably pushed you further ahead, and then into Just Collect. And one thing, if anyone knows you, I know you well enough to know, like you mentioned, even traveling in high school, and that's something you still do on a grander scale, obviously today with Vintage Breaks. And I love what you do with Vintage Break. There's no, let's be real, as you well will know, there's no shortage of breakers. I've said breaking has really saved the wax industry. Topps, Panini, Upper Deck can really take their hat, and I'm sure they know it. They may not always say it, but it's really saved the wax industry at a time. Now we know it in a different fashion, but there was a time, wax didn't fly off the shelves in the fashion we know it to now, and breaking sort of saved that. But you do it. What I love about what you guys do at Vintage Breaks, you do it a different way, just like your name entails. I mean, you're breaking down some older stuff sometimes that just watching some of that stuff, you never get a chance to see that, and yet you're doing it. Some of the set breaks. I mean, you've had athletes on from Pete Rose to Gary V, Emmett Smith, Tony Dorsett. I know I'm leaving people off, not on purpose, but you really sort of differentiate yourself. And I think you have to when there's so much oversaturation of everything in current hobby times. I think you set yourself apart to that. Kind of maybe talk about, how you kind of transition from, and you're still, Just Collect still good, but how did Vintage Breaks sort of give birth and born and off the ground? Like, how did that all come about?
Sure. No, I appreciate you asking, John. Happy to share the story. I'm not sure how many nationals that you've been to. I've been to
only one. Believe it, is for 30.
Wow.
Is crazy as it sounds. Late in 2019 in Chicago, and I met you there. Was my first one ever, and I had a store for 5 or 6 years. I did shows for 30 something. I think you'll agree, and I don't want to talk as someone who's been to a lot of nationals, but the national as it is today, it wasn't really always like that. So in its early incarnations, let's just put it that way, I always just viewed it as a really extra large show, and I was already sort of doing shows and doing fairly well, and so people would say, hey, any interest in going to the national? And I said, it's sort of what I'm doing now, but like on a larger scale, and it's not it's cool, I'm not besmirching it, it's just not a big, you know what I mean? I don't it's not a must do necessarily for me. And so I never went. And then I actually went when I kind of got into the content creation side. That's really what drove me. And, obviously we know with the pandemic, we lost last year's, and this year's looks more like it's going to happen. We'll actually next, when this airs, I think they've already announced, whether it's green lighted, which indications are that it is, but I call it, I think you'll agree, I call it the Super Bowl of the hobby now. It's if you're doing anything in the hobby, whether it be as a company, as whether it's podcasting or any content creation, you sort of almost have to go, unless you just can't make it work. But it's everyone that's in the hobby tries to get there. It's taken on sort of its own life of its own, and between who's there and the main stage and autograph guests, and now we're seeing, as you very well know, athletes, celebrities, personas get in the hobby at a rate we've never seen before. Again, it's become sort of an event. Someone very well, Gary V, attended that one, I believe his first as a setting up in 2019, and now will probably be a mainstay there. It's become sort of a go-to event more than it's ever was before. I think it went from like just a huge show to an event in itself. I don't know your thought, you agree, disagree, but and so for someone been in the hobby a long time, my first was 2019. I was all set for Atlantic City, had rented a Verbo house on the water, and then COVID-19 said, not so fast, my friend, and to myself and everybody else. But kind of, I'm talking about, you agree, disagree with sort of that assessment?
Oh, yeah. So in terms of, the show itself, John, I'm really glad that you were able to make it in 2019, and hopefully I'll be able to see you this year, in Chicago, amongst many other folks. But I do agree with your assessment. It's call it the Super Bowl, call it the World Series of Poker. At the end of the day, you are right. Maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago, it was mainly about commerce. And now, because of all the content creation and all the other different olive branches that have kind of extended off the center of the hobby, if you will, whether it be you're a serious collector, a novice collector, a content creator, a manufacturer, an auction house, a dealer, a consignment, eBay seller, really anyone and everyone will generally be there for at least a little bit of time. And, listen, there's, for me, John, one of the really cool things and I always enjoyed going to not just the Baseball Hall of Fame as a kid, but, any Hall of Fame that my parents would take me to, meaning Professional Hall of Fame, which, you go in, you soak up all of the artifacts and the knowledge. And so to me, like when you go to the National, it's basically like being at the Hall of Fame, but you're allowed to buy and sell. And so to me, that's wild. Yes, it's not the same items, and I'm not suggesting it's the same experience, but, the National is, and similar to Vintage Breaks, which we'll come back to in a minute, I think the National understands what it is now, and it's an entertainment platform, right? It's a place for folks to go and enjoy themselves in a variety of different ways if you're a collector or any of the folks that I just mentioned, meaning dealer, podcast creator, etc. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, John. It's a must attend event if you can, that's for sure.
And like you said, I mean, now you're even seeing, I was in the hobby almost 30 years when I went to my first. It wasn't kind of that must attend. Now you're seeing people that just getting in the hobby. It's a must go for them. It's really kind of it's changed. It's evolved into something completely different, and most would say better. Like you said, it's got a Hall of Fame sort of feel to it. You go to some of the auction house setups, and they got the stuff. They got obviously security guards looking at you funny if you get too close. But they have some amazing, incredible stuff as you mentioned. So there is that sort of Hall of Fame. You're going to see some stuff that you wouldn't see somewhere else. And when I was there in 2019, I jumped on Eric Norton's show there, Fat Packs, and he knew it was my first show. We've gotten to become friends, and even at that point, he's like, "Hey, John, for your first national, being in the hobby so long, what, give me your assessment." And I said, "Man, what I thought it was going to be, like you think about it in your mind before you get there, it surpassed that." And I just told him, like, if a card or something in the hobby's not here, it almost probably doesn't exist. It really, it does. That's sort of, how I look at it.
I agree. I can't wait for this summer. And as you said, by the time this episode airs, we'll probably have a fairly solid indication from the National as to what the plans are.
All right, we're going to step aside for a real quick break to hear from one of our great sponsors, One of One Card Shop. But soon after that, we'll be right back with more Leighton Sheldon.
What doesn't One of One Card Shop do? From box, case, and personal breaks, there's always fire being pulled. They offer bulk grading subs, and their large store located in Strongsville, Ohio, offers an incredible selection of sports cards, non-sports, and authentic autographed memorabilia. Steve and family will treat you right. Check them out on Instagram at One of One Card Shop or on the web at oneofOneCardShop.com.
Sports Card Nation is back with more Leighton Sheldon. Talk about that transition from, I don't even want to say transition, maybe that's not the right, but how Vintage Breaks sort of got off the ground and obviously soaring today.
Oh, I'd be happy to share with your audience, Sean. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I consider myself to be not only someone who's passionate, about baseball cards and football, basketball, and hockey, but about sports, but also an entrepreneur. And so, along those lines, John, I'm sure, you can understand that if you're talking about, if you will, the World Series of baseball cards or the, as you mentioned, the Super Bowl of baseball cards being the National, what I started doing several years ago, as the Just Collect owner, I find myself like every National, the week goes by so fast, and I generally get there Monday, and I don't leave till Sunday, early evening. So, I put in every ounce of energy I have. In fact, it's on our blog, at our company blog at justcollect.com/blog. You could read about our last national experience in 2019 in Chicago. But John, that week, I didn't know that my phone did this, but someone alerted me early in the week that it keeps track of your distance, how far you walk. And so that week, I think I walked something like 37.2 or 37.6 miles.
You ran a marathon and then some.
Yeah. And so, the point being is that to kind of bring it back to Vintage Breaks. So I'm always working hard for Just Collect, but I'm also trying to think forward and look to what I believe are the trends, if you will, in the hobby. But then also, John, I also I like to enjoy the show itself. And so part of the way that I enjoy the show is the last few days I generally throw on my my iPod and or at this point your cell phone, right? And listen to some music, and I put on my headphones walking around for like a half hour to an hour per day for several days in a row. And to kind of tie this back into Vintage Breaks, this is basically, I don't know, 5-ish years ago, I discovered the Case Break Pavilion at the National. And John, to say I was intrigued would be an understatement. I literally felt like I was on the floor of a blossoming card stock exchange and no one knew it. Like when I say no one knew it, plenty of breakers knew it, but they knew what they knew. And that's a good thing, right? Like they, as you said, in many ways help save the manufacturers and shape the business, the wax side of things on the modern side, very much the way it is today. But what was very apparent to me, John, is that not literally a single company, a single person was doing anything vintage. And that was my business, meaning I Just Collect. Yes. Did I buy and sell Michael Jordan rookies, Gretzky rookies, and the current like couple years card? Sure. But my general business was vintage, 70s and really earlier. And so every year at the National, John, just as, I finally had some money in my pocket and it really wasn't for financial gain, way before Vintage Breaks was born, good buddy of mine, Rich Miller from Sports Collectors Daily, would come over to my booth for Just Collect at the National, and I would open for entertainment / enjoyment purposes a 1958 Topps football cello pack, a 1971 baseball pack, and I would only do one. It was my money, and so it wasn't like I could just go willy nilly. But there was always a chance, of course, you can get a high grade card, and we never had more than a couple dozen people watch live. But as Rich took that footage and uploaded it to his site, sportscollectorsdaily.com, there was quite, the reaction to it. And so if you take that coupled with what I saw going on at this point, I guess 5 or 6 years ago at the National, this blossoming, business called case breaking and box breaking. And yes, at that point, it was already still well established because I know there's some OGs that go back 10, 12 years. However, once again, there was no one doing anything vintage. I mean, when I say anything vintage, if you were doing something non-current year, John, people looked at you kind of funny. That was really like breaking was not the way it at least was designed to me was, Leighton, you don't break even the last year's stuff. You break all the stuff that comes out. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. And I said, like, who's your customers? And I learned all about it. And so the way I looked at it, John, was I already had another business as well established and Just Collect. I was kind of enjoying the ride, but also enjoy being an entrepreneur. And so kind of took a shot about 4 years ago after seeing what I did at the National going on. I thought there was an opportunity. I thought there was an opportunity for folks in the vintage community, whether it be for entertainment purposes, John, or listen, let's be honest, right? Case breaking, kind of what makes it interesting and unique on the modern side. It's really the same premise for vintage. You can maybe not have to buy the whole box or buy the whole case.
Yep.
And, we do things a little bit different than other breakers, in the sense that we don't really do random teams or random divisions and things of that nature. That's all, really well and fun. But for us, we really concentrate on the product itself, John, where everyone's going to walk away with something. So if we do a pack, for example, of 10 cards from 1971, one person is going to get a card. So if there's 10 different people in it, everyone gets a card. Now you can buy more than one card, but the point is that if you have the Mets and there's no Mets card, you're still going to get a card because we don't do the randomness, if you will, of division and that nature. And so kind of bringing it back to a pack, if you went out and bought a 1959 Topps cello pack, it would set you back thousands of dollars, John. Depending on the series and such. And so this way was not only a cool way to participate in a break, but it was a lot more economical because instead of needing thousands of dollars, maybe now you needed a few $100 to buy one card in a 1959 cello pack instead of spending thousands of dollars. And so we kind of took that premise, we applied it to unopened packs and boxes from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the 90s. We've also, done a ton of stuff from 03, from 2000, meaning LeBron rookie year and the Brady rookie year. And then, if you fast forward now, we do a fair amount of product from 17 and 18, meaning Mahomes and Luka rookie year. And we do break some modern stuff, but, once again, there's a lot of great breakers out there. So whether it be it's like folks like Real Breaks or, Nate from Grand Slam. And once again, these are, if you will, competitors of mine. I know you can't see me, but, these are good people that lead organizations where they work hard. And they generally break, modern. And so if you're kind of looking for that, they're going to be doing it, let's say most of the time. Whereas for us, we kind of mix it in. And I think that for us, as we've grown, we're no longer really looking at what we do as we're breakers. It's really, we're an entertainment company. And so people just enjoy, even if they're not in a 1958 Top Sell pack, like we opened a few weeks ago at the Chantilly show in Virginia. I had people drop me a line afterwards like, wow, Leighton, that was really cool. Thanks for letting me stop on by just to watch it. And so it's that kind of like hobby fanfare that has helped us grow, as an organization, because we're not just focusing on, hey, how many cases or how many boxes can we sell? It's what kind of content can we share with folks that's going to be meaningful. And of course, there is the dollars and cents of things. But, we believe that with set breaks, with hit randoms, with pack breaks, and of course, box breaks, being vintage, and vintage can mean, as I mentioned, 50s and 60s or 70s, 80s, and 90s. But there's a really nice opportunity, John, for the regular collector to come in, and if you only have $3 or $4, literally $3 or $4, you can buy into a pack from the 80s. It'll be delivered to your door, the one card you get from that pack, for that price, and you'll still be involved in a myriad of different bonuses. You can see all the details on our website at vintagebreaks.com. But we've really created this community of folks where if you spend money, if you don't spend money, you spend a lot of money, you spend a little bit of money, there's kind of a place for you to enjoy our entertainment. And that's the way that we look at Vintage Breaks.
Yeah, you cover all the bases, all the angles. I enjoy just watching some of those 50s and 60s, because how often are you seeing that product being, let's you go back in the DeLorean with when Marty McFly and Dr. Emmett Brown, right?
Yeah, sure.
But all joking aside, like that's not something that's just getting done necessarily every day, or if it is, you don't always get to see it, and so what you're doing, you get to see it, and it's a kind of a trip down memory lane for some who are alive during those decades, and for me, who wasn't quite yet, it's just interesting to see the product from those eras. I'm born in '72, so my first pack was the 1979 Topps, which a Reggie Jackson came out of, and the rest is history, as I've said on the show many times. But when you decided to do this and launch Vintage Breaks, how much stuff did you have sort of already in inventory, or did you really sort of have to go out there and say, hey, we gotta get this stuff and do this?
Sure. So, John, in the beginning, we had very little everything, meaning we had very little inventory. We had very few customers. We had very few people who thought it was a good idea. And so just to kind of give some context, I often joke, we're a private company, so we don't talk like financials publicly and such. But, I've given this example because I remember many a night in the first 12 or 15 months where, we would do, John, for like a whole given night, and a night could be, 4, 5, 6 hours of breaking, like $800 of revenue. And, today we have folks who sometimes spend $800 in a given night, like one customer. And so, listen, we have folks who do that. We have folks who spend $3. We have thousands of customers at this point that we're super proud of, each and every one of them being part of our community. And, listen, at the end of the day, the hobby can be a complicated place in the sense of, should I buy this? Should I sell this? Should I get it graded? Should I not? But I do think that when it comes to the folks, and the way you said it, John, was really just perfect. We oftentimes can just say, hey, this is what we're doing tonight. We don't really have to sell anything. People just kind of, they come, they hang out, they join our community, because as you said, there's not really that many places publicly, certainly, on a given night that you can go enjoy a 1950s, 60s, or 70s pack being opened, or for that matter, a 2003, LeBron box that's thousands of dollars.
No doubt. And I mean, even if you find, you can find old clips or something, but to do it in current times, I mean, that's just, to me, I'm always fascinated by that. Just even to see the way things run and the gum, 50, 60-year-old gum, and what cards get in the gum stain. You hope it's nothing huge, but even so, I mean, still, and to open a pack that's still new in a sense, and like you said, you can hit, a superstar card that's in really prime for grading form. You've pulled some crazy stuff: Jordan rookies, Mantle 55 Bowman, Dr. J, and just so much more. I mean, it's not even my card, and it's still thrilling to watch. And I'm sure for you to do it or see it, it's still as thrilling. I mean, when how often do you see that? There's plenty of Jordan rookies for sale, but to see one come out of a pack on camera, that's a whole different ball game. And you've done that, and it's just really cool. And with all due respect to the current breakers, like you said, many of them are breaking similar products, and they're great products. Don't get me wrong, but you sort of get numb to seeing a lot of the new stuff. And maybe being an older guy at 48, I really do appreciate the vintage stuff. Maybe a little bit more. I'm not saying you can't be younger and appreciate it. You can, but maybe being closer to those years because of my age, you sort of have a different respect or attraction to them, and to get to see those opened up again and still be available. There's just a coolness factor to that. You can't replicate necessarily. So, kudos to you for kind of, taking something that was established and doing well and doing it differently and very well. And I think it shows, like you said, you built it up. You went from, at first starting small and now to new heights, and made quite a name for yourself. It's just cool. You've had, like I said, athletes themselves breaking with you, which, I mean, how cool is that? And not, some big name athletes, not any athlete's cool, but some definite, Hall of Famers, if you will. That's very cool. Another quick break to hear from another great sponsor, Iron Sports, but we'll be back right after that.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
We are back with Leighton Sheldon. I know you travel a lot. I mean, to buy collections. How much? We're kind of coming down the home stretch here. When you travel, how much of it's for singles or sets, or compared to wax? Like, do you have a percentage, or you just never know?
No, I would say it's actually, to be very blunt, John, it's about dollars. So in other words, like, if I can't spend X amount of dollars, it really doesn't make sense, time-wise and economically to travel. That being said, kind of like the vintage breaks community, what's really fun is there's been a lot of great crossover between Just Collect and vintage breaks. So if the vintage breaks community, if we're live and they're like, hey, where's Leight? If he's out of town looking at a collection, like, they know I'm not going out of town to look at 1988 tops. There's always there's always to be
Don't
fair.
Sleep on allied or rookies.
Yeah. To be fair, John, the road is what it is. There's no guarantees. Yeah. But that's part of the fun of it. I joke with friends at parties when there were parties, right, prior to COVID. That I'm a professional baseball card treasure hunter, and I've really kind of taken that MO and run with it both for Just Collect and Vintage Breaks. We do buy a lot of wax. People ask me all the time, where do we get our wax from? Because it's not like we can get our wax from Panini or Topps, meaning vintage stuff. And so, we get it on the secondary market. Steve Hart's a good buddy of mine. I buy a lot from him.
Yeah.
I buy a lot at auction houses. I buy a lot from collectors. I buy a lot from, fresh finds. Wherever and whenever we can secure good material, we will do so. But I do want to have a special shout out because I know you had mentioned a few different times, and I do appreciate, the accolades and kudos in regards to Vintage Breaks, in our journey in just this short amount of time. But really couldn't do it without, our instrumental team members like John, who's affectionately known as J5, and Sam, who's now been with us for several years, and Robert, who's actually our longest tenured employee between Just Collect and Vintage Breaks. He's been with me for almost 13 years, and he's head of shipping. And at this point, I'm not exaggerating. The guy has shipped tens of millions of dollars of goods between Just Collect and Vintage Breaks. And, it's just really wonderful to have a great team kind of, behind you that also enjoys it.
Well, it's nice here. I'm sure they appreciate that. And it's nice having a boss that, gives you kudos and knows how important you are to the day-to-day operations and, behind every great company's great employees. And it's nice. I'm sure they appreciate that. And for me listening to you, I appreciate you hearing you highlight them, and think that's a testament to you and your acumen and, how you view your staff and your employees. And we probably need, there's some companies probably could take a page from you there, if you will, but it's a good on you for doing that. So late work, it's a holiday weekend. I know you speaking of traveling, you did a little bit of that. I appreciate you making some time for us on Sports Card Nation. We'd love to have you back as well. But as I always do, I always give the guests sort of, give out your website, social medias, anything you want to share with those listening that they can find Just Collect, Vintage Breaks, Leighton Sheldon, and what you're doing.
Thanks again for having me on, John. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we were able to connect. In regards to how to find me personally, you can always email me directly at Leighton, Leighton, at justcollect.com. In regards to our websites, excuse me, you can find us at justcollect.com and email us through our free appraisal form. You can also check us out at blog.justcollect.com. We literally have hundreds and hundreds of stories behind some of the collections that we bought. So, for example, John, we just bought a 1961 Fleer basketball collection, and the gentleman literally won them in flipping. So, without giving away more details, he had a real roller coaster of a collection. You could read, that story and more on our blog. And then in regards to Vintage Breaks, you can view almost 250, vintage pack breaks, box breaks, set breaks, and more at our website, vintagebreaks.com. Registration is free. And if you look towards the top of the website, we typically have anywhere from several bonuses all the way up to 5 or 10 bonuses running at one time. It's really nice. We had our custom website and system built by a company called Jam Graphics out of New Jersey, so shout out to them. But what's really nice, John, is you can literally spend $3 or $4 on our website and actually win a Hank Aaron rookie. It depends on the promo, but we've had people tune in and win thousands of break credit just because they support the community. And so we have a lot of really good, strong automation behind our systems, and so that's what makes it all tick, if you will.
Yeah, it's like a lottery ticket. You can buy one for win for life for $2 and hit. So they exist, and like you said, that's you got to be in it sort of to win it. And you're doing a great job. And I've read the blog at different times. Those stories are great. The stories behind. We all know about the cards and sort of what's good or a little bit of the history, but sort of the story of how you obtain them, sort of the history behind some of the acquisitions or even just the people behind them. I mean, that to me, sometimes that's even more interesting than the cards themselves. I mean, we all know, a Jordan rookie, a Gretzky rookie, a Wilt Chamberlain rookie is a great piece of history, great part of the hobby. But some of the stories behind where they came from, who had them, how they got it, whether they pulled it from a pack or got it in an auction or even some crazier ways they have obtained. I mean, that's some of the fun part of the hobby as well. And I think you do a great job too with the blog, and you're pretty forthcoming as much as you can be. And I think that's just a cool aspect as well.
Well, thanks again, John, for having me. It was a lot of fun chatting, and I'd love to come back anytime.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back. And again, a couple of things we didn't touch on, but that gives us a reason to do a part two. So continued wishing you health, well-being, continued success with Just Collect and Vintage Breaks. I'm 50-50 on the national. I just came back from Dallas. I'm planning to go to Vegas in September, so I'm trying to pull off all these trips. And so hopefully, we get some good news this week when the show airs about the national, and then maybe try to scramble and get some accommodations done very quickly and see you there.
Absolutely. And just as a little thank you to your audience for listening to today, I'm going to have you kind of figure out how to, if you will, give it away. But I'd like to give away a $100 break credit to Vintage Breaks to one of your listeners. And, whether it be through some sort of social media contest or trivia contest or something, I'll leave that to kind of you to figure out the best way to do that. But just a nice little token of our appreciation here.
Well, Leighton, thank you, man. I appreciate that more than you had to do. But again, a testament to Leighton, the person. We appreciate that. And yes, we'll figure out something that will be fair to everybody and give everyone a good opportunity to win a great prize, obviously. And like you said, you never know what that break credit might wind up lead to. So we'll see. But thank you again.
Absolutely. And before we sign off, happy birthday to Joe Namath. I think he turned 78 today.
Broadway Joe.
Yep.
Still going.
I'm a big Jet fan, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They got some draft picks. I'm a New York City kid, believe it or not, but I'm a Steeler fan.
You're a smart man. You're a smart man.
Yeah, well, I took a lot of grief. Well, I don't know about smart. I took a lot of grief from friends growing up. Like, how do you like the Steelers? You're in Brooklyn, I'm like, I don't like the Jets or Giants. It was the whole. My era was the Mean Joe Green, the Coke commercial. That kid looked like like me at the time, and I gravitated towards them, and I never wavered. So I did jump on sort of. That was the Steel Curtain era, and they were winning some Super Bowls. I was 5 or 6, but all those lean years in the '80s, I didn't jump back off ship. I stayed the course. So no one can criticize me too much. So. Leighton, thanks again, man. I really appreciate you doing that for some lucky listener that's going to get to be in the Vintage Breaks break.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Tired of going to the retail store just to find empty shelves? The solution is Hotbox Cards. They offer a monthly subscription service at a great price level. Each box contains 3 sealed packs, 3 relic or autographed cards, and 50 cards featuring stars, rookies inserts, and parallels. 1 in 5 boxes have an envelope with a surprise card. They will honor expired redemptions with a comparable item. Check them out at www.hotboxcards.net.
Remember, June is Throwback Month at Hotbox, and use the promo code SCNation. That's SCNation all in caps, SCNATION, for an extra hit in your subscription box. All right, that's a wrap for episode 131. Want to thank my guest, Leighton Sheldon, for his time and obviously his generosity. I promise I'm going to keep this outro shorter than the intro, but I do want to do some thanks. I want to thank you out there, folks, for being who you are this week and all the time. And thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for allowing me to do this show. Without you out there, I wouldn't be able to do this. It's been a blessing from the first day, from the first episode. The show helps me get through. It's cathartic as well. It helps me get through some of these things. Kind of takes, my mind off of some of the bad things that happened. And without you making it possible, I wouldn't have it. And so thank you for that. Also want to say Just be good to each other. Someone's down, pick them up, whatever way that might be. There's no wrong way to pick someone up. However, whatever your style is, whether it's words of encouragement, writing a note and mailing it, a card, giving a random act of kindness, whatever form that may be. And it doesn't have to be, again, like I said in the open, doesn't have to be contained just to hobby folks. We all have lives outside the hobby, and we can be that way across the board. And so, again, I'm going to keep this short. I want to thank Max again for killing that new release announcements. Man, the guys do a better job than I do, and love what you did there, Max. I'm looking forward to hearing from Owen next week, grabbing the mic and telling us what's coming out. So we'll keep the outro here shorter than the intro was, but again, folks, thank you for allowing me to do what I do. It's a labor of love and a passion, and always remember, never forget, the hobby is the people.